Hey, let me do a quick check-in because I just read a long ass chapter of Journey to Mars. Chapter 36, The Wonders of Mars, where we kind of set aside the story for probably about 95% of this chapter, and the narrator Frederick Hamilton just kind of exposits on the wonders of Mars, going through kind of the races, the science, the medical stuff, technology stuff in here. So lot in here, and you can see it being. It's one of these kind of truisms of for good or ill, showing kind of the tenor of what the times of it's 1894. 1894 is when this was published. Gives you the real tenor of the times of 1894. There's definitely a lot of kind of stuff in here, which is kind of the racial stuff of here, which is like, it's the three unadulterated races, of which the Zurons, the golden race are the highest race, and indeed have been come after the lower blue and red races. And talking about their hues, but also just that, like, them unadulterated, they're like, their physiology is like they've far surpassed humankind. And saying kind of casually, oh, and we don't have any deformed or any no uglies need apply. There's sort of I get the sense from this kind of the eugenics of it going on, especially when we go into the section when we pass through kind of the racist kind of racial politics stuff, and how the Pluto people coming from Pluto and intermixing with these races, and the intermixing of races within Mars has degraded these people somehow, and thus those people actually do have diseases and they have vices. But and there's also the thing of like, well, there's going to be kind of scientific health, so you're going to obey your doctor in all things. The nutrition's reign supreme here, so disease is banished that way as well. So there's that kind of turn of the century, is it Kellogg kind of idea of perfecting the human body and expunging all diseases through scientific nutrition and health and that kind of stuff. There's the science, the thing of like, this is a world where it's depicted as an ideal world where they've terraformed the entire planet. They control the weather. They've leveled mountains. They've made gigantic artificial lakes. A lot of stuff that I think from our sensibility now of like, hands off nature, let nature kind of be itself, would kind of sort of horrify us of like this. But this is back in the kind of the days of, science is going to do all of the great stuff for us. There's also the ideas of all the different kind of metals and kind of manipulation of metals and crystals and marbles and stuff like that. Really kind of, you get the sense, okay, this is definitely the age where we're going to produce kind of plastic and stronger steel and all that sort of stuff. This is kind of done as a science fiction concept on Mars. Yeah, we definitely go into kind of a lot of kind of the medical stuff. Gustavus W. Pope is a medical doctor, and there's a lot here about kind of medicines of like you using odors to treat people, smelling flowers, bouquets, and stuff like that. Like, you don't need pharmacies, you don't need tonics, you don't need bromides, you don't need all of this stuff anymore. You have flowers you smell that actually can cure you much quicker than on earthly medicine. There's always a kind of constant theme here of this is the ideal world. This is what Earth should kind of aspire to. Everything here is so much better. The buildings, the people, the atmosphere. It's an older planet. The geological thing of it's like, well, there's been so much age that there's so many more different things. There's everything on Earth, but there's even more than that on there. We kind of drop back into the story rather suddenly. That or my copy skipped, and suddenly we're back with Frederick Hamilton and the Doctor, and they get delayed by a rainstorm. So they set down, and by the means of something called a ideolophoron, they're able to they're able to talk to the prince. They're able to talk to the prince like he was sitting in front of us, standing beside us, and they're able to, because they've got this, ideolophoron is basically through use of kind of tubes and mirrors and lenses, projects onto a mirror pictures, very kind of vivid, like lifelike pictures where you can talk to people, you can attend operas. I find this hilarious. This is Christmas Day, and I have just been on a Zoom. Actually, I think it was maybe FaceTime. I can't remember what it was, but a Zoom thing where we're in our COVID little bubble here in Victoria, and we had two separate little pictures, one of people in different households, and we were chatting with them and having our Christmas there, like they were, well, sort of like they were in front of us, that sort of thing. Not as good as the real thing, but that very much this science fiction concept of 1894 brought to life from now 2020. It is 1894. Gustavus W. Pope was kind of thinking about that, and they get to see an opera, and they get to see an orchestra, and they also come to something that they call basically it's a fountain of youth, which it's these waters that have through magnetic and mineral kind of natural things have produced this kind of revivifying water, which they dip a withered rose in it and it brings it back to life. They drop little I think like little tadpoles or something into the water, and they develop very quickly, and little seeds, they grow very quickly. So the next chapter is going to be is going to involve him and the Prince Altafora, Frederick Hamilton and Prince Altafora, going to visit the Fountain of Youth for sort of another travel log. But man, this was a long chapter. You can tell this is like this is Gustavus W. Pope doing what he really loves to do. Is he gets to kind of imagine this kind of idyllic world, an ideal world, which it's like the races don't mix, and there's the purity of blood, that kind of racism. So there's idealisms, and this kind of goes with the time of progressives at the time were big into eugenics, as much as they were into maybe other things that were more, we would still consider progressive today. But it's that kind of that mix of we're perfecting humankind by keeping them pure, but also kind of wanting to advance medicine and science and stuff like that. But it's interesting when it's kind of like, oh yeah, mixed with the racism of the time, expressed in the keeping these different colored Martian races separate and pure. It's like, oh. It's really interesting. It's really interesting because it makes you think. It's like, you could think you're in the most progressive group of your generation. I'm pure, I'm very, very progressive. It's like, no, there's probably really shitty stuff that we're not examining, that will seem really obvious to someone viewing it from 120 years or so later. Yeah, 1894, 2020. So, 124 years later, I look at that stuff and kind of go, ugh. But there's other stuff there I think, oh wow, FaceTime, Zoom, it's here now. Or stuff like, we're going to kind of radically alter our environment, and we're not going to really think of that. It's like, this is not really thinking about how that would actually affect a delicate ecosystem and all the kind of interconnections that have that the natural world has built up, that we kind of blunder through and say, we'll just kind of mow it down and make a monoculture, and what that would do to us. So yeah, interesting stuff as always, with Gustavus W. Pope, and Journey to Mars, which is a journey to 1894, which is definitely a foreign land in itself. All right, more videos later.